Smith has it. Knicks down 3. Should the Bulls foul? No. Anthony for 3. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
All right, recording this the 30th of August. I believe today's the last day of August.
Yeah.
7. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So it's 7:02 tonight. Me and Nolan back on the pod. It's a little off season, man, and pretty much everything in free agency pretty much went by. Little bit of the slow mode. Not much to talk about, but a few interesting stories me and Nolan are here to talk about. First thing that interesting that came up, Nerlens Noel is suing Rich Paul. Interesting, man. People who don't know the story, pretty much, Nerlens Noel met Ben Simmons. He met Rich Paul at Ben Simmons' birthday party in LA, and he pretty much told him, like, we could make you into this max player, decline this 4-year $78 million, which is ridiculous for a center who pretty much brings nothing on the offensive end, right? I mean, I think that's like a no-brainer to take that contract. But I guess, Clutch Sports was a big thing at that time, up-and-coming brand, and he drank the Kool-Aid.
And you have to remember that, like, Nerlens, when he came out, like, he was a lottery pick. You know what I mean? I'm sure, like all athletes, you have to have, like, a high confidence level in yourself. Otherwise, you never get to the point where you are. So I totally understand why the player makes a bet on himself like that. It just doesn't always work out.
And the kicker of the story is that not only did he bet on himself, during that time between now and he declined that contract, he had hurt his thumb and he wasn't able to sign that big deal. He signed that 2-year, $3 million offer, the veteran deal, pretty much what Taj signed this year. With the OKC Thunder, had a good year off the bench and came with us and never really got to see that money. He got $30 million from us, but not that big payday. I don't know if he will ever make that up. It seems like Rich Paul was also ignoring calls from teams like the Rockets, the Clippers. The Clippers could have helped him this past postseason. They could have used his talent, but it's interesting to see this back and forth. But come on, Noel. Like, come on, man. I don't know. I don't know if you have a case. How do you feel, Noel?
So I try to think of this story, this whatever you want to call it, situation, in two different ways. The first way I think of it is from the player aspect. And if you're Nerlens Noel, like, yeah, you notoriously turned down a $70 million extension from Dallas. You end up getting hurt, you get smaller deals until this offseason, which still isn't even a $70 million deal. And Paul, reportedly advised that he turned that down. I'm not really sure what type, as like my personal history, I don't want to sound like I'm anything like John Macri is like a former lawyer, but I do have like a paralegal certificate. Like, that's what my background's in. And the thing that makes this case so difficult is that just the burden of proof of like damages is so hard to prove. Like, it's so hard to say, well, if I didn't do X, then I would have made Y amount of dollars. Like, you know what I mean? These are all hypothetical things. And I don't really think he has a case to win a lawsuit. But there also is a lot of times where something people don't know about most lawsuits is most lawsuits never go to trial. Most lawsuits get settled before they ever reach trial. So, like, I could see there being a point with Rich Paul where he's just like, this is not worth my time to deal with. Here's some chunk of money, go away. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all for Noel. I do think he was wrong. I don't think he has any like legal repercussions there that are legitimate. But honestly, it doesn't have really any implications on the Knicks. So like more money for one of our guys, I'm all for that. I'm all for players empowerment and players sticking it to their agents. Who, I guess like part of the snag was that Rich Paul wanted like a large percentage of that $70 million extension too, which was why part of the reason why Nerlens turned it down. I still think he ended up getting like 4% of whatever Nerlens signed for. But I guess he's what? I don't know. Do you know who he's with now?
I have no idea who he's with. I believe I don't know. I guess it's with a smaller agency because he was complaining about how the big names of Clutch Sports were getting all the attention from Rich Paul,
Which is
which
probably fair.
yeah, it makes sense, right? Of course, KD's issue. I'm not KD. Anthony Davis, LeBron. Those guys' issues are gonna come first.
All right, you're not top priority.
Exactly. And most people don't know that this is Noel's countersuit because Rich Paul had sued him first because
Right.
yes, because of the first contract with the Knicks, he didn't cut him off.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is that he wanted this large percentage for the Dallas contract.
Exactly.
And then when he doesn't take it, he basically says, "Well, I'm not giving you this," and switches his agency. And now Rich Paul tried to sue him over that. Like, dude, like, you did this dude kind of dirty to be out here chasing your percentage of a like, it's not like it's Kevin Durant's contract, like 4% of that or something. You're talking about like Nerlens Noel making like under 13 million a year without incentives. Like it's to Rich Paul, that's nothing. You know what I mean? So for Rich Paul to sue Nerlens in the first place, I thought it's just like uncalled for and just like unnecessary. But I'm interested to see how it plays out. I think it can have an impact on like player agent relations moving forward. I think that's like the most interesting aspect of the story.
And I don't know what to do. Like, if you were a young guy coming up, maybe even a role player in the league, like, do you even want to sign with Clutch Sports after this? Like, what do you feel about that, Nolan? Because I've seen people like, if you're not really a superstar and you're not really trying to change your situation in the league, change teams, is there really any point in going over the Clutch? Because you're going to be bottom of the totem pole as it comes to priority. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a tough thing. I think it's really circumstantial, like player to player. Like, I mean, if you're a player that kind of like Nerlens, you come out, you're a lottery pick, you have all the expectations of, being a lucrative, high profile player, and you probably want to sign with one of the top agencies in sports. Rich Paul's probably right now the most powerful agent in the NBA. So like I get why people would still want to sign with Rich Paul. If you're a player that's not like a top tier talent and like you're like self aware enough to kind of recognize that, it might not be the right place for you because with Nerlens, if you don't produce, you're not really going to, be their top priority because their money's more tied up in other players. More larger amounts of money means larger percentages for them. So those percentages are going to come ahead of like mid-level players.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you? What do you think about it? What do you think about his chances in the lawsuit, and what do you think should be the outcome?
I mean, at the end of the day, Rich Paul, like, you're his boss, Noel, right? Like, Noel, you're the one who makes the final decisions. I feel like that 4 year, $70+ million contract in today's market, that's like Jared Allen deal,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
pretty much, right? Maybe
Yeah.
10 million, maybe a couple million short, but damn near the Jared Allen deal. And I'm looking at that, and it's kind of like, you're still young. That money was on the table. You don't have the most elite skill set. Take the money, and you're still young enough to go back into the market and demand a big deal if you're worth the money. I don't know. I think Noel made a false judgment of his skill set. And this happens, right? Because You have guys in your ear. Maybe you come off a good year like he did off of Dallas, and you're feeling yourself, and you feel like you could replicate and maybe even
Prove.
exceed those last year's expectations.
Especially when your agent's telling you the same thing.
Exactly, and we see the same thing with Schroeder, and it's like I don't know, I can't. It's not the agent's fault when you pass up on that much money and your situation, and you can't be delusional on your spot in the league. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I get that. My only thing is if Rich Paul did advise him not to take that contract, and that's the primary reason, that's the only issue I have, because as his agent, you should be incentivized to want your player to make as much money as possible. And I think not to be disrespectful to Nerlens, he's a good defensive player, but he's limited on offense. And I think at that stage in his career, that was pretty clear. And I don't know what contracts they were seeing that he thought that waiting another year he was gonna get a max deal or something over 70. That's what I mean.
How much more?
What were you expecting? And yeah, so that part confused me. And the more I read into the story, the more complicated it gets. And it's whose side do you put more trust into? It was Nerlens really going to do this until Rich Paul said something, or was it something that Nerlens kind of felt this way? He said it to his agent. His agent was like, "If you feel that way, man, go bet on yourself. Go sign this contract." I don't know the ins and outs of how that discussion went. I don't think anyone does. If it actually ends up in court, maybe we'll find out some more information. But I think it probably just ends in a small settlement for Noel.
Yeah, I
you know what this conversation kind of brings it's something that I wanted to message you about. I didn't get a chance to. I think I messaged you about it the other day, but you were talking about how Nerlens $70 million is pretty comparable to Jared Allen's contract, right?
Yeah, and today's market, yeah.
Right. So I was thinking back to when we were talking about Terry Rozier, and how my first initial reaction was that is a whole hell of a lot of money for Terry Rozier. But I mean, the fit does make sense. He can play on and off ball with LaMelo. He can shoot threes. He's a spot-up shooter. I think he averaged 20 points, 4.4 rebounds, 4.2 assists, 1.3 steals a game. And in the assist, you also have to you have to consider is the fact that he played with not only LaMelo, but with Gordon Hayward, who's a pretty ball dominant player in his own right. So I think I've kind of turned my opinion on that. I think the signing is a little better than I initially did. So $24 million per year. It's more than what's his name? DeRozan or Lonzo got, I mean.
Yeah.
And after Graham was gone, you really didn't have an option to let him walk. I think there's still a debate on whether Graham or Rozier would have been a better fit and better dollar amount wise. But there's also just we talked about a little bit, the tax of playing in a market like that where you kind of have to overpay some players. So basically, I just wanted to touch on that just to tell you that my opinion's changed on that, and I no longer consider it one of the worst deals of free agency.
Guys, come to the dark side, man. Come to the
dark side. But I'm open-minded, I listen, I learn.
But honestly, I really thought that deal was okay. Maybe it was a little bit overpaid, but as you said, Charlotte got to do what they got to do.
Right.
I do think that, defensively, Rozier isn't as much as a train wreck that people are advertising him to be.
No, like I said, he had 1.3 steals. That's pretty solid.
And every year he's getting better offensively, and his new role
He's
too,
a good rebounder too for only being 6'1".
and he has one of the most prettiest games in the NBA.
He has
Like
a good feel for the ball or for the game, for
yes, like
sure.
he's like the handle is on point.
He
I
kind
wish
of reminds me of, or is like comparable to Kemba, where it's just like that
yeah.
hooper type. Like I'm gonna go out and just get a bucket.
Yep. Yeah, and with the Hornets vibe, what they have going on, and the announcer, it's a vibe watching Hornets games, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
I gotta recommend some Hornets games during the year, man. I have to.
they'll definitely be. I mean, they were last year, and they'll probably be one of my most watched league pass teams again this year. So
For
I'm right
sure,
there with you.
for sure. Moving on, I wanted to bring up the Patrick Beverly situation. Um, we didn't really touch on it with Haynes.
And he got traded again, anyways.
Yeah, and he got traded again anyway. But this trade is really interesting to me because Memphis we're sending Patrick Beverly to Minnesota, and in return, they got Jared Culver and Hernan Gomez's brother,
Wancho,
Wancho,
or
yeah, like, whatever his name is, Wancho. But he's didn't really play in Minnesota's rotation last year when he got traded over there from Denver. But he could shoot the ball. I think he's definitely a rotational piece. For what I've seen,
Hernan Gomez.
yeah, definitely his
Yeah,
brother. Yeah, he's definitely
yeah,
somewhat of a rotational piece.
for
Could shoot the
sure.
ball. I like his size. I don't know if he'll play with Memphis because Memphis seems like they're deep with the wings, especially drafting Zaire. But we'll see how that goes. But I wanted to really speak on Jared Culver. Had a rough NBA career so far. Coming out of Texas
Yeah.
Tech, a top 7 pick. I believe he was 6. Um, to be honest with you, coming out the draft, I really did not see him as a lottery pick. Like, he was really deficient. I guess the appeal there was his defensive skills, him being able to guard the wing, the guards, but just offensively, he's been a train wreck. Can't shoot the ball. Doesn't have the best feel for the game. Doesn't have the best handle. I, um, I don't know. How did you feel about this trade and Culver, time in the league so far?
The trade I actually liked more for the Timberwolves.
Yeah,
I
I definitely
think
did too.
the acquisition of Pat Beverly, like, it gives them someone who can at least defend the point guard position, you know? And I think that the Timberwolves, who were a pretty good team last year, um, could use a little extra bit of defense. Um, I like Aaron Gomez's brother. I think he's obviously better than Billy, but it's not saying a
Too
ton.
much.
But I mean, last season Beverly shot 42% from the field, averaged 77.5 points and 2.1 assists. So, like, there's a role for him on that team. Reggie Jackson kind of took that role from him in LA. So I think that Patrick Beverly fits a really good fit for Memphis. On the Jarrett Culver side, it's interesting because a lot of people were very high on Jarrett Culver. There were even some calls by a lot of prominent Knicks content creators saying that they liked him as much as RJ, and even some people saying we should trade back and just draft Culver because they thought they were so comparable. I never saw that. I was a fan of Culver coming out of college. The biggest surprise to me has just been his his 3-point shooting and his just lack of offensive game. Period. I mean, just his shooting percentages, I think, were like, I don't know. I have them written down somewhere. I lost them, but I mean, he's averaged like 8 points a game. or no, 14 points a game. Wait, it's minutes played. Holy shit, I'm an idiot. Where is his? Oh yeah, he's never averaged over .299 from three. And that was his rookie year. This year he shot 2.45. Like, that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. He's averaged 9.2 points his first year, 5.3 points his second year. So, like, I don't know if, I mean, there's been a lot of players that have gotten better after leaving that team, but I don't really see the appeal in Culver other than kind of just like a flyer and like cap space. But I mean, it is what it is. I think it's not the worst deal in the world for either team, but I don't think it makes a drastic difference for either team. And I think that I think it definitely benefit. I think Minnesota is the winner of the trade. What were your thoughts on the trade in general?
I think it's surprising on how Minnesota gave up on him so early. It's
Yeah,
I
he
wasn't
was
a big
6, right?
Yeah, he was 6, and it wasn't that long ago. It was only 2
Yeah,
years ago.
2019. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, and to see the new management come in and just pretty much say like we're not dealing with this kid anymore. It's pretty interesting. He did spend 2 years at college, so there's something there. Not a one and done guy as most guys in the league, lottery picks are. I to be honest with you, it's pretty much the Frank situation. Like, no, he's gonna be there. He's gonna give you good team defense, but just offensively, he's not gonna be there. And I don't know where he fits in Memphis situation because they need their wings to score, and they need their wings to shoot the three, especially with John Morant, and those
And that
guys
was
out
my
there.
biggest thing about it. It's just like I said, it's 3-point percentage has been horrible. It's just, I don't understand that fit there. But I will say that like I do think Jarrett Culver can get better, and I do think that he'll be in a better situation, and maybe being asked to do less, you'll be able to get more from him. So I mean, I don't know. A lot of these trades, you can say were lost the day they were made and immediate aftermath. You look down the line and it ends up being a win-win for both teams, or it ends up being the exact opposite. Like after the KP trade, Knicks fans got clowned, and that's been a complete 360 over the past 2 years. So I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but it's definitely an interesting move and a move I didn't really expect to see.
And also one element that needs to be spoken upon is the Pat Bev thing. I think the mystique around the league, having a guy like Patrick Beverly, that dog, the annoying factor, has become a little bit overrated. Seeing him being passed around like
Okay,
a
yeah,
blunt.
I thought you were going the other direction,
No, no,
and
no, no.
I was about to be very upset with you, but I'm very glad that you went that way. Continue. Sorry.
He got passed around like a blunt this offseason, man. Like
Oh, for sure.
yeah, it's and I'm a fan of Patrick Beverly, what he brings to the team. Like I do like those elements, but
Yeah,
it seems like teams, they're not really prioritizing that. And remember, he makes $10 million, so he's pretty much a $10 million backup point guard. I don't know
right.
how many teams like Minnesota are willing to accept that onto their cap. You know,
Yeah, but also if you're a team like Minnesota, who else are you bringing in? Like, who's the last free agent to go to Minnesota? You know what I mean?
they need to get in that Ben Simmons deal, but that's a whole different
That's a whole
conversation.
different conversation, and I can't say my source on this, but what I've been told is that Ben Simmons will be staying in Philadelphia unless a certain guard in Portland, not named CJ McCollum, is on the table.
It's interesting, right? Because we could switch over to that topic, and I've been hearing a lot of rumors saying Simmons might go to the Kings.
Which I think would be a good fit for the Kings.
No, I really do think that will, better the situation there with Fox. I definitely agree with that. But a trade between Simmons and Buddy Hield, I think that's a win-win for both situations. The money adds up. They're Simmons is definitely a better basketball player, but it's about the value exchange. It isn't too much. It's about
Oh, I disagree there.
you don't think so? Maybe a one team, maybe the Kings need to add, first round picks and stuff like that.
You're
But
either going to need to add 4 first-round picks to that, or involve a third team that you can use picks to bring in another star player for Philly, because they're not going to go for that.
and that's why I said that, because I don't really see the Kings giving up, Buddy Hield and multiple
Oh, I would if I was them.
the Kings are kind of stupid, man.
Yeah, but I mean, but what I'm saying is, like, it's hard to get people to come to the Kings. I think Ben Simmons, regardless of like what his limitations are as an offensive player, he's gonna elevate that team to some level.
Yeah.
And like, if you're a team like that, sometimes those are the chances you have to make. Like, just there's a few players, that just go places and try to make the best of it. But I mean, I don't know. It'll be fun. It'll be an interesting storyline for the season for sure.
Definitely. And I like, if Simmons, like, how do you feel the situation will play out if Simmons returns to Phil? It'll be Joel. How's this relationship between Embiid and
they aren't
Simmons?
speaking. Ben Simmons has not been speaking with JoJo or anybody in the Philly front office. So him coming back to training camp is going to be a shit show. I could see him pulling a Harden and not even holding out. But I think more realistically that he starts the season with the Sixers. Then depending on how they do and how Portland does by the deadline is where you, like, a few days before the deadline, a week before the deadline, even the day of the deadline is where you would see a deal like that. Because I can see a situation where Portland just has a completely like horrible season this year if things don't go right. Because Dame has asked for all these changes, right? He said he came in, he said, I want to be here, but I want changes. I want to see improvements. I want to be a title contender. Like, what have they really done other than bringing a head coach that gave them a shit ton of like backlash? They haven't really brought in anybody. They lost Melo. I don't know. Like, do you think Portland's any better this year than last year?
I do think Portland's gonna be a lottery team, definitely.
That's what I mean. So
yeah.
like, if you get to the trade deadline and you're in the West, which is a tough conference, and Dame's looking at missing the playoffs, patience might run thin.
No, I agree. That's definitely a storyline we definitely gotta follow. It seems like, yeah, even from the outside looking in, like, it definitely seems like Philly's pretty much just waiting on that Portland, situation to crumble. And like you said, right? We're gonna talk about the next trade, but Larry Nance is going to be coming to Portland, and I don't know if that helps
I
the
do like that
situation.
move.
I think it's a little bit overrated. I've heard, they were
It is
talking,
overrated.
they were hyping it up on the mismatch, and I don't know.
I did actually. I listened to that episode actually. Yeah, I did hear that, and I thought the same thing. They definitely took it a little too far, but I like Larry Nance. I just think he gets too much credit as an outside shooter, and he's really not. His percentages from three are awful. He's great in the paint, and like, he's like a bowling ball kind of Randall-esque. And if he can ever get a shot down and like work on his handle a little bit more, he can make a leap similar to a player like Randall. But that's really rare.
I think at this stage in Larry Nance's career with his skill set,
I think you know what we have.
Yeah, and if he's starting on your team in the West, I don't know if you're making the playoffs. Keep it real, man. Let's just keep it real.
The West is tough, man.
The West is tough, man, and Portland, I don't know. We're definitely going to see a losing season from Portland, and they just spent that money on Norman Powell, dug themselves in a deeper hole. I think they definitely should have pressed the eject button this offseason. And they should have been. We talked about this with Cohen. We talked about this with numerous people. They should have been hit the eject button, and it's getting annoying talking about this actually.
I think a lot of that's on Dame too. I think a lot of it is that Dame really is one of those players similar to Beal, who's very loyal and really does want this to work. And I think if you're the Blazers front office and he says like, I still want to be here, like until he demands a trade, you can't trade that guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's been your franchise player for so long, but I do think eventually it needs to happen, and otherwise it's gonna be just like a disappointing career for Dame Lillard, just in terms of postseason success.
The last thing I want to talk about with this trade is the Kings, right? And this rumor from Shams, with the discussion between the Sixers and the Kings, isn't a shocker. The rumors come out the Kings all the time, and they have some type of substance to them. It's not the most secretive organization.
No.
And it's nice to see them trying to get better with De'Aaron what Fox's situation bubbling. They don't. Luke Walton definitely needs to get fired. I don't understand how he has a job. I'm advocating. I'm advocating for him to get fired every day. I don't understand.
I'm not a person who typically goes out here and roots for anyone to lose their job, but there's so many better candidates for that position.
I don't understand what's going on over there, bro. Like I don't. But bringing in Ben Simmons is good. Is a step in the right direction. Right.
Oh, for sure.
And they're a team that definitely has playing aspirations. With this team construction as it is, how do you see their season playing out, Nolan?
The Kings?
Yeah.
If they trade for Ben, or
no, like just
just
as is. They signed Rashawn Holmes, and they retooled the roster a little bit, but they still got the same guys pretty much.
That Holmes deal was a good value deal for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that they got, like you said, they mostly stayed the same, maybe a little bit better around the edges, but I think unless they get like a big leap from some of their younger guys, they're pretty much in the same situation they were last year. Maybe they get into the first round, maybe they sneak into the second round, but like I can't see them getting any farther than that.
No, I agree. The West is tough, bro.
The people want to talk about how much improved the East is, then you go over and look at the West and actually look at it, and it's like, yeah, they're a lot closer than they were the past few years, but the West, the top tier talent is still a heavy step above the East.
If you really think about it, right? Minnesota is expected to be a play-in team. Sacramento, play-in team. The Pelicans, with that dynamic duo, they're definitely looking to make a playoff, to play in. Spurs, with that coaching staff, they're a little bit younger this year, but I still believe that culture believes that they have a play-in aspirations. Golden State, we already know how Golden State's gonna be, and in the Grizzlies, up and coming Grizzlies team, and Portland, Dame, they're gonna be they're gonna be worse, but they're gonna be in that fight. So it's definitely a dogfight. And yeah, I don't know, man. I'm waiting. Fox to New York. I'm just gonna be chanting that for the season.
He is like the prototypical like Tibbs point guard.
Exactly, like the perfect guy, man. The perfect guy.
Yeah, he really is. He's been one of my favorite players in the league for a while, and I think he's due for a good jump. And what guards were we talking about before? What team were we talking about? Memphis?
About the
Memphis and the Kings was your team.
And then
For the Ben
Portland.
Simmons trade, I mean.
Yeah, Portland with the guard.
Okay. Did you hear the Timberwolves trade offer for Ben Simmons?
I think it's definitely a D-Lo type of package.
No. What I've heard, at least from the source, is that D'Lo, Cat,
What?
Ant Edwards, and who else is a starter for them? But
Nas Reed. They got a whole bunch of good
I
players.
don't know. But
Taurean Prince.
yeah, I think it was Prince. We're all off the table at a Ben Simmons trade.
Really?
Like the plan was to keep all of those guys with Ben Simmons and that be your core moving forward. And that's why you absolutely need a third team involved in that deal if you're gonna make it happen. But that would be interesting. I don't know. I mean, I'm not a hugest fan of D'Lo. I'm not the hugest fan of really anyone on that team. I do like Ant Edwards as a player. As a person, the RJ stuff kind of annoyed me. But that's not really fair.
Definitely.
That's a small sample size. I think he's actually a pretty entertaining person for the most part. Is like a social
Character.
celebrity. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, definitely. I do like. I'm a big fan of Towns, and I'm a big fan of Edwards.
Towns.
I love Towns' game.
He was obviously off the table too. That was the other guy I was trying to think of.
Actually, a funny story. I think it was 2 years ago. Like 2 years ago, I watched Tim Hardaway Jr. drop his career high on the Wolves at the Garden. I think it was like 39 points. He was on fire that
good
game.
Games, man.
Yeah, no. I saw. I was like, he's on fire.
He's a good player.
No,
he really is.
No, I'm talking about Timmy scoring that on them.
Well, no, I'm saying Tim Hardaway Jr. was a pretty good player. He got, if it wasn't for that plantar fasciitis or whatever it is, that he would, and KP going down, I think it would have been a pretty solid team. I mean, he actually people said it was an overpay for him with the Knicks, and half the reason we traded him was for cap space. And then Dallas went and signed him to a newer deal, or I mean, a bigger deal this offseason.
I think it's just the situation. I mean, yeah. I mean, who would you rather have right now? Be honest, Fournier or Tim Hardaway Jr.? They pretty much signed for the same amount of money.
Fournier.
Yeah, maybe you're not pissed off at Fournier enough. Maybe we gotta watch Fournier play basketball.
I don't have enough bad memories of Fournier yet. I still have a lot of, especially once KP went down, of just Tim Hardaway like chucking up shots, which Fournier is also known to put up a little too many shots, but I think he'll kind of reel that back when he's in New York.
Definitely.
I mean, hopefully. Tibbs, I don't think Tibbs is gonna play with
that. Let's switch topics. I definitely want to speak on the Cavalier trade. This was a sign-in trade. The Cavaliers were able to pick up Lauri Markkanen and sign him to a 4-year, $67 million deal. Also in this deal, the Bulls were able to receive Derrick Jones Jr., athletic wing, and a protected 22 first-round pick from Portland. And as we've spoken from before, the Portland got Larry Nance Jr. out this deal. The first thing that popped up into my head was, why are the Cavaliers spending money on big men? Markkanen, the Chicago fan base has explicitly told everybody he cannot play the 4. Like, they watched this kid for 3 years. Like, I trust their fan base. He can't play the 4. So if he can't play, he can't play the 4 at all. It's almost like an Obi situation where not the 4, the 3. I mean the 3. Sorry.
Oh shit!
Yeah.
A second.
Yeah. Sorry. Markkanen can't play the 3. So
No, definitely not.
so it's almost
He's a 4 or 5. He's so similar to Kristaps.
yeah, so it's almost like I don't know, like they're very backed up in that situation. They just signed Jared Allen to that big deal. They drafted, Mobley, who's supposed to be this generational, athletic, offensive big man. We got to see how he develops. They still got Kevin Love tied up to like 2 years, $60 million,
Forgot about that.
and it's reported, like last night I saw Shams reported that explicitly that Kevin Love, he's not giving up any money. Like he's sitting out the rest of the deal
It's
if he
so
has to.
ridiculous.
Which
I mean, no, actually, I kind of get it.
I,
Just
I really
because,
don't. Like
just because
this is his
Kevin
third max
Love,
contract though.
right? So Kevin Love has all the money in the world, right? At
Yeah,
least
basically.
enough, enough to live comfortably. And if you have Allen, Mobley, and Markkinen probably like in front of you, and you're collecting all this money, not really doing anything. Like Kevin Love, not to be weird, he does all these emotional issues, and he doesn't always seem to be the most interested in basketball. And if it's not really like his desire to continue playing basketball, why not sit there and collect every cent you can and then worry about the rest after the contract? Like I can see if you really want to play, get out. And I can see it accelerating to the point where eventually he does get fed up and like wants to get out and wants to go to a contender, but he's gonna have to give up a lot of money to do that. And I don't know how willing he is to do that, like you were saying, and I don't know what teams left have enough cap to really make that work.
Yeah, the Kevin Love situation is dicey, and I've said it years ago. Why they're signing this? Why are they re-signing him? Like LeBron already left. Like they're
Because
already.
they thought they could still be a playoff team without LeBron because Dan Gilbert's insane.
Man, I don't know, bro. Like it's ridiculous. And then the 4 year $67 million deal. I will admit I don't watch a lot of Chicago Bulls basketball. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend
Right.
I know their franchise like the Knicks, Grizzlies, or Hornets or whatever, but look, he hasn't shown me enough worth $67 million. Like I don't know what did you see anything for him to be worth that money, or am I
No,
tripping?
no. I mean, I guess the only real justification I can have for it is how, like, names aside, if you're just looking at their stats, how comparable do you think Lauri Markkinen is to Porzingis?
Offensively, they're
Just
damn near
all
the
around,
same. I
all
mean,
around.
I mean, it's interesting, right? Because Porzingis' defense isn't what it was when we saw him in New York, right? And
Right.
we haven't really seen that defensive thing. So, like, I guess like they're very similar players. KP, in my opinion, is probably still a little bit better, but
Higher
they're
ceiling, at least.
yeah, but they're around the same bubble of a player. Yes, I agree with that point.
So my point there is that while Markkinen has had some injury history, it also he's been available a lot more than KP has. And I think that Markkinen's deal is only $57 million guaranteed, which is a lot of money, but still, less than the 67 million that it could be up to. So I mean, he went to Chicago, and I mean he got out of Chicago, and he's gonna find a larger role with the team he's on now. I would think, but I also don't know how those minutes work, like we said, with Jared Allen and Kevin Love and Mobley. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Portland and the Bulls did well, and the Cleveland Cavaliers continue to be the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I definitely, the Bulls getting Derrick Jones, another guy to come off the bench, play defense, improving his through ball a little bit. Um, Definitely a guy ready to play, ready to, plug and play in any, defensive, scheme you're running out there. I do like Derrick Jones, and what he showed in that finals run with the Heat. I definitely think he's a solid rotational player. Watch out for the Bulls, man. Definitely. Offensively, they're gonna be fireworks. Defensively, I don't know, but definitely gonna be watching them on League Pass. And the Larry Lynch thing, we already spoke upon that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing on the Bulls too is one thing I really liked about the deal is they got a first round pick back. It's a lottery protected first,
Yeah.
but they've given up so many first in like these deals these past 2 years that they just needed a first, that if they're gonna improve their roster, or if like a player doesn't fit and they need to move off a bad contract, that you need little sweeteners like that to, you know, improve your team. And on the Portland side of things, I mean, you got Robert Covington still, right? You got Nurkic, Powell, McCollum, Dame. Like, it's a deep team. It's a good shooting team. Probably a little bit better defensively than last year. But with the Lillard thing over the head, I don't feel confident in predicting them to be a playoff team. I'm lower on the Bulls than you, like we previously discussed, but I do think that DeRozan and ball sharing, like ball handling responsibilities, is a good combination. I just worry about DeRozan's shooting and his lack of defense at this stages in his career.
Definitely interesting to see how this trade plays out, see how marketing fits with the Bull. I mean, with the Cavs, definitely interesting to see. Definitely want to switch up the conversation and go to the collegiate level. Amani Bates, one of the top prospects in years. I mean, this guy's been compared to KD, Ingram. I heard that he was 6'5" in the sixth grade. Imagine being 6'5" in the sixth grade, Noah.
Bro, we had a kid like that went to our high school for 1 year, and then he transferred to some Catholic or like some private school, just because that's what happens in high school basketball nowadays. Is you go to a school where you get like the most recognition, and seeing kids that big at that level is just so fun to watch. And especially like this kid was tall, skinny, and all he could really do was like dunk. But like, I watched a lot of Money Bates highlights, and I I think he's going to be really exciting. I think that if you're a Memphis fan, this Penny Hardaway coach hire like is like a dream come true so far for a school like that.
Yeah.
I think it's what, the second top 10 player, top 5 player that they brought in this year.
I think it's like the third. And Precious was up there too, man.
Yeah, Duran I think was the number 4 prospect.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's 3, and I mean they're gonna be a team to look out for. You never know with freshmen how people pan out. Like, I mean, look at that your Dukies, and they had Zion, Cam, and RJ. I mean, they were the most talented team, but you never know how things work out. So I mean, they play in a weaker conference, so I think they'll have a lot of wins, but it also makes it, not impossible to make the definitely not possible to make the tournament, but you have to have a really good league record, and you have to do really well in your out of conference games, or your Power 5 conference games to make that case, and just be really dominant within your own conference as well. But I mean, Memphis' trajectory is ahead of a lot of Power 5 schools right now. Like, they're in better shape than Pitt is, I'll tell you that much.
I think it's definitely interesting that Penny got this recruit. Penny definitely changing life over there in Memphis. Bates pretty much had offers all around the country. His top 3 college offers were, Oregon to go play with Dior Johnson, who it seems like is going to be another lottery pick in this upcoming draft. Or he was going to go to Michigan State, where, he originally committed to and then decommitted. due to, I guess, issues with him and Izzo. But
he's also talking about the G League for a little bit.
yeah, he
too.
definitely. But I don't know. He definitely seemed more enlightened with the college situation. So I didn't really see him in the G League.
I didn't see him in the G League either, but I thought that like it was good of him to hear it out. And like now that you've seen guys from like the Ignite and stuff like be top 10 picks, that it's a good thing for the G League that they're at least getting looks from players at this level, this caliber of talent.
Definitely. And one thing that was reported that Penny recruited, the idea that I'm gonna let you play on the ball, almost like a Luca type of situation, a heavy pick and roll, let you use your height, let you use your vision, let you really show your skill set. Definitely something that Michigan State and Oregon wasn't allowing him to do. Definitely going to be able to see his NBA skill set. I definitely think Memphis, like you said, rookies in the college game is different. But I definitely do think with 2 lottery picks, it should be an exciting season for them. Definitely more eyes will be on Memphis. This kid, he was in the cover of Slam magazine, a very coveted kid, definitely. And a year younger than what he's supposed to be. He reclassified, so it was one of
What
those.
conference is Memphis in right now?
Aren't they in the
The Big East?
No, they're in the same conference with Houston. No,
The AAC?
yeah, the AAC, yeah.
Okay, yeah. I know that when the Big East basketball like split up, it was like the Catholic schools and like the Big East schools and stuff. So that makes sense.
Yeah, so you'll definitely see him, shine because the competition, it's good, but it's not ACC, it's not SEC. So
no, but it's also not like like some like the Horizon League or something
or
crazy
MAC.
either.
Yeah,
You know what I mean. So like when we've seen players come out of those, like Steph Curry came out of Davidson, and that, like so. I mean, going to a school like that definitely doesn't hurt your NBA chances. I mean, you saw Ben Simmons go to an awful LSU team and get drafted where he got drafted. So
definitely, if you could play, they're definitely going to get you. I definitely wanted to bring up, college basketball. Guys are able to profit off their name, which is a good thing. Something that we all wanted them to have. But it seems like more and more kids are signing to, G League and even, overtime. Overtime. We were talking about this. They're signing
night.
Yeah, like they're signing guys, sophomore, junior, and if you're getting them that early, what can you do, right?
Right. Like, imagine being. I think I texted you about the one guy. He was the 40th overall recruit. I can't remember if it was overall in rankings or overall at the shooting guard position. He's getting paid $2.1 million. Imagine being 16 years old and offered $2.1 million. Like, you can't turn that down. That's life-changing money.
And it almost brings it back to like the T-Mac days and the Kobe days where guys they're not going to college, they're signing that Adidas contract and they're signing the ABC contract, they're signing, like they're not willing to go to college because 2.1 million or whatever it is, it's more than what a lot of guys are making in the league. It's a lot where guys are making in professional sports, period. You know what I mean?
That's the most interesting aspect of that whole Ignite thing is that I think that puts a lot more pressure on the G League to not necessarily go after younger players like them, but to bump up salary to increase like likelihood of top players coming there for a year instead of their year of college. Because if not, you're gonna see this league scoop them up before they even get a chance to grab them. And if you aren't on a contract, you're on a contract. Like I think that is just what it is at this point. And I don't think they'd be able to get out of it until they. I mean, I'm sure there's some buyouts and like exceptions and everything, but if you're scooped up and you're doing well in the league and like you're being projected to be a top 12 pick because you're doing so well in this league and you're getting paid money, like I don't understand how how you do choose college outside of like sentimental values or like I have more interest in getting my education in college, but education doesn't go anywhere and money like that does. So I if I had a kid in that situation, I would have them sign with that league if they were offered some serious money in a heartbeat.
But ain't it interesting, right? Because you know, for me, college basketball is like, especially as a Duke fan, I wasn't watching, Duke basketball when Chris Duhon and Shane Battier were playing, but I definitely caught up on my history. And that's definitely a mystique that is missing from today's era, man. When
Yeah.
the JJ Redick days, the Shane Battier days, the Christian Laettner days where when guys were staying, 2, 3, 4+ years in college and they were going to war, those like Christian Laettner, Shaquille, LSU, Duke, like those games were wars back in the days. And I think that's one thing that's definitely missing. I definitely like the counter punch that the NCAA put for players to be able to market themselves, but like you
But
said, I
that
don't.
money's not comparable, man.
Yes, yeah,
It's
yeah,
bad. Like
yeah.
maybe at a school like Duke or like UNC or Kentucky or something. But like for your average Power Five conference school, like Pitt's starting quarterback has like 2 NIL deals. One is with the Oaklander Hotel, where once a week he gets to bring his linemen to get dinner, and like the other is with like the local Pittsburgh radio station. Like you're not like people were like bashing Champagne because he went to the draft, didn't even get drafted, and saying he could have made more money off NIL money than in the G League. And I was like, you guys are flipping crazy. Like he's gonna be on a bad Pitt team in a city that isn't a big basketball city. Like especially when the team hasn't been good in years now. So like, I don't know. I think it's really interesting for players like that. I think it's really interesting that, like you said, the mystique and the aura and just like kind of the sentimentality of college sports are something that really, really um, tend to make fans want things to stay the way they are. I think what my personal opinion is that what they should do is college sports like the NCAA should essentially be abolished. I think college sports should be affiliated as with their schools, but not necessarily student athletes. I think like you should give them the option to be a student athlete if you want, but it shouldn't be a requirement. They should just be considered um, like university employees essentially. And then, you avoid all these things like you're seeing in the NBA with leagues plucking younger players and stuff like that. And you get to see actually players getting paid that like there's so many players that don't get the opportunity to go to schools because their grades are so bad. And like if you're that talented of a player, like I'm not saying you shouldn't have some basic level of education, but your opportunity to earn this type of money is such a small window. And I don't know. I couldn't imagine turning it down.
But you gotta also think, teams also, always been, paying their recruits under the table, and I've heard rumors that Duke they blessed Zion with a whole bunch of money, for him
Oh
to
yeah.
come over. Like I've definitely heard that with a few of our
No,
recruits.
I know for an absolute fact that Terrell Pryor, because originally he was committed to Pitt because he's a PA local kid, um, to play football and basketball, and that was the reason he committed there is because they were going to let him do both. And then when they told him they didn't want him to play basketball, he switched to Ohio State. But I know as soon as he switched to Ohio State, he had a brand new car he was driving around. And I know a buddy from high school, whose name I'm not going to say, who took a visit to UNC and got basically like a swag bag that was, when he brought back to his hotel, was full of thousands of dollars of cash. So like, yeah.
How do you say no to that, man? How do you say no to that? Like,
funny part is the person I know did say no to that school.
Really? Like, and the thing is though, right? Because you got to think like these facilities are plush, man. Like,
top of the line.
Yeah, man. And
you need
they're
to
giving
have that
you money.
to compete.
And they're giving you money.
And education for whatever that's worth.
Like I go
like to a fallback.
Like I go to a little small school at New York City, but you went to Pitt and you've seen the facilities over there. You've seen how they do it over there, and to me, it's kind of like it's interesting, right? Because these guys, they get, especially these top recruits like Zion. Like I know he probably already had interest in going to Duke, and the money just put it over the top. But he definitely received other bags of money from different schools, right?
Yeah, no, I've definitely even heard. I think it's either this year or the past year that some player, there was like a unnamed player, unnamed agent, where like a G League team offered player X this amount of money, and he said, I could make more money at this school. And it's just like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. And like, the only thing I worry about with things like that is that kind of what you see in college football right now, where it's the top few teams in the tournament every year. And just like, I don't know, I don't expect Pitt to compete on the athletic level of like an Ohio State, a Penn State, an Alabama, a Florida, a USC. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't want to see schools like that drop off because they're not willing to pay players the same amount of money. And that also concerns me with NIL money because, like I said, like players at premier top level recruits like Zion Williamson definitely could have made a lot of NIL money at Duke, where if you go to another school, you might not have quite the opportunity. And don't get me wrong, Zion Williamson was an exception. And there's a lot of these players that, like, due to social media specifically, are celebrities before they even reach college. This is a really random name. He's a football player, but do you remember a football player named Sam McGuffey?
Sam McGuffey?
Yeah.
No. What school did he play for?
So he was this really high recruited running back. His first year, he committed to Michigan. Ended up not being that good at Michigan, transferred to Rice the rest of his career. But in high school, he had one of the craziest highlight tapes I think I've ever seen in my life. He hurdled people just like left and right. You'll have to look it up after this pod. It's so wild. And I don't know. I really wanted that guy to turn out. I mean, he just never did. But sorry to kind of take us off track there, but McGuffey just popped into my mind, and I like to bring up Sam McGuffey any chance I get.
But yeah, no, I feel you, and definitely going to see how college basketball, how athletes in the future, how they, react to this. Over time, seems like a really up and coming league.
Yeah, there's big names behind it.
Yeah,
a lot of money. I don't think Elon Musk is concerned about making a profit for a few years. You know what I mean? I think he's more worried about, hey, I want to bring in the highest talent level for the best product possible and make my money on the back end.
And there's other big names like Drake and
KD, yeah.
So the influence, especially we are in the social media age. So
imagine getting a visit from that group of people, Elon Musk, like Jay-Z, Drake. It just like How do you say no to that?
Isn't Drake dating this kid's mom?
I did hear something about that. I don't know enough
Bronny's
details to
teammate,
speak about it.
Amari Bailey. Yeah, like I've seen pictures like of them. Like he rented out like the whole Dodger Stadium and had like a chance.
Oh, I do remember hearing about that.
Yeah. So that's her, man. That's her. So he's definitely doing his part in
Oh
the
yeah,
deal.
above and beyond.
But yeah, man, it's definitely. I think this, and it only betters the game of basketball. More opportunities for guys.
And it's better for the players.
Definitely.
I'm all for seeing players get paid.
And like you said, right, like the 60th ranked guy, gets to go to overtime and maybe show. Maybe he would have been like a role player in college. Maybe he's the focal point of an offense at an overtime team. It's little situations like that, right?
Oh, for sure.
And yeah. I mean, pretty much. That's pretty much everything that we have planned to talk about. Don't forget to follow me and Nolan on Twitter. Don't forget to check up on.
Oh wait, you know what? Before we get off, I have a few questions for you. Just not Knicks related.
Sure.
Daniel Jones, thoughts?
Oh my God.
He didn't look bad.
No, he to keep
he had
it
one
real,
bad interception, but he looked pretty good other than that, right?
Oh, to keep it real, man. Like he's going
It's
to be
preseason.
he's going like it's preseason, and I expect like a mediocre season. Like they're like I'm already mentally preparing for like us to search for his replacement. I already know this kid is not it. Like we've watched, like I know these guys, some guys develop differently or whatever, but
what year is it for him?
This is his third year.
Yeah, but like, what did Baker Mayfield look like his first few years?
Definitely, Baker Mayfield definitely showed way more potential than what
I don't know about that, man. I don't know. I'm still not seeing Baker, so
I understand. Like I understand people like from like the outside or whatever, like still got hope for Daniel Jones, but
but
I think
totally
you saw on Twitter,
side.
like on Twitter, you saw like
yeah. Now that I'm friends or I follow like so many Knicks fans, the amount of like Giants and Jets and Yankees and Mets like sports tweets I see, it's so overwhelming. I love it and hate it at the same time. I'm just so jealous that I want an actual baseball team.
I don't get how people are Jets fans. Like that's like being a Brooklyn Nets fan. For over here, I don't understand how people are Jets fans.
Yeah, I don't really know much about like the history. I mean,
they don't have no history,
right? And then the Jets were from like New Jersey originally, just like the Nets were.
Yeah. I think both teams play in New Jersey though.
Yeah. But I mean, like that's like was their original city.
Yeah, definitely. But that's that. How do you feel about Haskins? Well, since we're on the the football conversation.
Haskins has for most of the preseason and training camp. Sounds like he's been playing very, very well. And he's actually won the backup quarterback position over Mason Rudolph and Josh Dobbs, who was the other quarterback we drafted a few years ago. So that's encouraging. I don't know if that says more about how bad Rudolph has looked or more about Haskins. Haskins did start our last preseason game, but it was against, I think, the Panthers, and they played most of their starters, and we sat most of ours. So he didn't really have a lot of weapons around him on offense, and he played really bad, which is disheartening. But he is the second best quarterback on our roster now.
I love the optimism.
And the ceiling's high, and Ben has 1 or 2 years left, so you got to start at least, taking stabs at it.
Nah, I can't be mad at that. I definitely can't be mad at that.
He's on a 1-year deal for like almost nothing in NFL money,
For sure. And to be honest, like mentally, I see myself cheering Mac and Tua on more than my own quarterback, which is kind of sad.
Yeah, I
But
like Tua a lot. That was interesting. You sent me that thing about the them trading for potentially for what's his name from Texans, Sean Watson.
yeah. Now, I saw that too. I like Tua a lot. Like definitely
No, I do too, but
brung us a chip, but I don't know. We'll see. But Deshaun Watson is Deshaun Watson. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah. I mean, if that
So
legal stuff sorted out, even if he sits out half the season, I mean,
but
you go out and get Deshaun Watson.
definitely, I actually cannot wait for the NFL season.
I'm excited.
Excited, definitely, yeah.
Who's your pick from each NFL conference to make the Super Bowl?
Uh, yeah, I definitely, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, to be honest, I see a rematch. To keep it
Chief,
real,
Chiefs,
and Chiefs and
Bucks.
Buccaneers. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
can
I
see
don't
it going
know.
that way for sure. Chiefs are definitely the favorite in AFC. NFC, yeah, maybe the Packers. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, the NFC's no one too crazy there either.
Like it's competitive, but it's like it's definitely a top dog, and then it's like everybody else. So you know what I
Your
mean?
division's kind of trash.
It was trash last year as well,
Yeah,
and you the Cowboy situation with Dak Prescott and his shoulder, and that's
it's
a whole
weird.
yeah.
Elliott hasn't really looked the same ever since like early on. I don't know what to think about that.
Definitely. And you never really asked me, but like the fuck the Cowboys thing on my Twitter.
Oh
Like
yeah, I mean, I just assumed it was a general like you're a Giants fan.
yeah. Like because I had put that up because Cowboy fans like they love to argue on Twitter, bro.
Oh, dude, they're like not the not to compare them to Knicks fans, but they're definitely a loud and vocal group, especially on like social media. That like if you go after one of their guys, they're gonna come at you like relentless.
Yeah, definitely. So I just put that. So I just draw the line. I was supposed to take that out like during like non-NFL weeks, but whatever. Like I just draw the line right there, so everybody just know where I stand. Because
Yeah,
yeah, definitely annoying fan base.
I
To
feel you
say
there. I've never been a fan of the Cowboys, so
definitely one of the most overrated places. Like for real, like they spend a whole bunch of money and never get nowhere, bro. Like it's crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely hope you guys enjoyed this pod. Make sure to follow me and Nolan on Twitter. Make sure to follow the corner 3. We definitely got, articles and all that coming for season 2.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of an article right now. It's probably gonna end up getting split into two pieces. It's a off-season review slash like season preview prediction thing. I'm about halfway through it now, and it's a lot longer than I thought it would be. So that's the reason it's probably gonna be split up into 2 or 3 segments. But keep your eyes out for that because that's definitely something I'm excited to work on and should be out within the next week or so.
Definitely. That's definitely something that you guys should look out for. And yeah, the corner 3 pod website where the articles, all our episodes are on there as well. And yeah, Nolan, I catch you next week, and we talk about other situations that come across the league.
Yeah, I'm sure there's always going to be new NBA news, man. Never stops.
For sure.
All right, buddy. I'll catch you later. Thanks, everyone, for listening.
All right.